Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our board meeting for May 18th, 2022. If I can get a roll call, please, Mr. Sloan, if you're ready.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Here.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Mundy?
Here.
Could you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Sitting up front here with me, all the way to my left, your right, is Nathan Mundy, board member. To his right is Don Henry, board member. To his right, Dr. Andrea Townsend, our superintendent. To her right, myself, board president Joe Cox. To my right is Leslie Miller, vice president, and John Llewellyn to her right, board member. And we've got Ryan Sloan, our treasurer, to his right. And then in our audience tonight, we've got Jack Haig, our business manager, Melissa Tice, our assistant superintendent, Devin Berry, director of human resources, and some folks from our curriculum. It is recommended that the agenda for May 18th, 2022 be adopted as presented. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mundy?
Yes.
It is recommended the minutes of our regular meeting held on May 4th, 2022 be approved as submitted. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mundy?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes. We don't have any comments from the public relating to agenda items this evening. We'll move on to number 8, our student rep report. Mr. Llewellyn.
Well, we at the end of the school year here, so I did hear from Shabri. She's going to try to make it. Obviously, she's not going to be here in time to talk right now, but she will be one of our 2 graduates from the student rep program this year. I do have 2 quick announcements to make. We have chosen student rep for next year. Her name's Madeline McCune. She will be a junior at the high school, and at some point this summer we'll have her attend a meeting just to kind of introduce herself to the community and to the board, and then she'll start in August joining us on a regular basis. So congratulations to her for selection. She interviewed with all of us a couple weeks ago, and I know she's excited about doing this. She's a member of the student council right now, and the other announcement I want to make has to do with OSBA conference in November. As I think I shared a couple of months ago, we did submit a session, offer to do a session about student reps at OSBA's conference in November. And a couple weeks ago, between last meeting and this one, received confirmation that they will accept a 1-hour session that we're going to be in charge of on Tuesday, November 15th at 10:30 in the morning. I do think Tuesday's the last day of that conference, but at least this is in the morning. So a lot of folks perhaps will hang around and then leave at lunch so they can sit in on our session. So it'll be a 1-hour session just to discuss the student rep programs. A couple of districts that work with us on that roundtable will help us with this presentation. Dr. Townsend has agreed to attend and just share her perspective as a superintendent with how the students have impacted the district in her words. So I appreciate her offering to do that. Hopefully her schedule will stay clear and she can come, but it'll be November 15th again, and we'll certainly this summer have to put that session together, and looking forward to that. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. Communications update. Ms. Janine.
Good evening. So, of course, we're getting close to the end of the school year, but there's still a lot going on. So, First off, I wanted to remind everyone of the ways you can keep in touch and know what's going on in the school district. Our website is westcarrolltonschools.com. You can access Facebook at West Carrollton City Schools or Twitter at WC City Schools, excuse me. I wanted to congratulate our CTC seniors. They received their career passports last Friday. Got a few random pictures of our kids. And I wanted to point out Victoria Pressgrave. She's the one on the right, and she is one of 17 valedictorians from the CTC, and also happens to be the daughter of one of our bus drivers. So congratulations to her. She studied veterinary science, and she has plans to attend the University of Findlay in the pharmacy program. And this is a picture from last year. You can tell by all the masks. But I wanted you to know, I haven't gotten the picture yet, should do that tomorrow, that the MVL League Trophy for track and field is coming back to West Carrollton for 2 years in a row. They won it last year, and they have won it again this year. So very proud of them. So Pirates give back, as we all know. And middle school, National Junior Honor Society members did some community service. They went to the Possum Creek Metro Park. They picked up trash, and that will make the park a nicer place to visit. And they also presented a $500 donation to the Greater Dayton Humane Society. This was part of the funds they raised through their school dance. So things got turned around this morning. Our favorite reporter, WDTN reporter Kelly King, I mentioned to her how much the kids in our WOW program absolutely adore her. So we talked behind the scenes, and she's like, yeah, okay, I'll come in. We'll just do autographs. And so she came in today, and she autographed pictures. But what we didn't tell her was we're going to ask you questions. So the kids came up with their own questions, and there was a lot of variance in these questions. There was, what's your favorite color? How long have you been at WDTN? Where do you like to go on vacation? There were a lot of other questions, but my personal favorite, what do you think of the influence of national media through channels such as Fox and CNN? That one definitely took her off guard. It took all of us off guard, but she handled it well. And anyway, like I said, she thought she was just going to be doing autographs, but it turned out to be so much more and so much fun. And they ended up presenting her with a notebook, a binder with all of their questions in it, and she was very touched. So she's excited to come back next school year and see what the WOW kids are doing. So today was the last day for seniors, but the last day of school for all other students is Thursday, May 26th. That will also be graduation day, and that will be at the University of Dayton at 7:30. If you're going, please give yourself plenty of time to make the drive and park so you don't miss any part of the ceremony. But if you cannot be there, it will be live streamed, and that link will be available on our Facebook page and on our website the day of the ceremony. So also continue to watch. We're still putting up senior spotlights for things that are going on with our seniors for 2022. And I want to thank Mr. Haig. He sent me this picture late this afternoon, and you can see the freshly painted Pirate Pride on the wall at the intermediate school. So that is what I had this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Points of pride, state of the district. Report with the superintendent.
Thank you. Well, I've cut this down from what I usually do because we're just getting data in right now, but we've had some good things going on as we've come back off the pandemic. So some of the things that we still track with is our student achievement with our state report card, which data is slowly coming in. iReady, ProCore, and our formative and summative assessments. And this year we've really focused on reflective practices as high quality student data needs to be embedded in the teacher evaluations next year. Our district report card for last year, we still have no rating because of the pandemic, even though we did do testing. So I pulled some of our most recent data. This is our iReady diagnostic. By no means are we done. There's still a lot of kids that need to be tested, but the one that's kind of shaded out is from the first beginning of the year, and you can see we've made a lot of growth between the green and the yellow, and our tier 3 kids are slowly decreasing. This is our reading data. And then there's our math diagnostic for our younger kids. And again, not as high as I'd like to see, but I think with our kids being out with the pandemic, this being our younger kids, some of those foundational skills we'll have to address during summer school and in small group instruction. And I have to say our coaches have done a fantastic job bringing in manipulatives so our kids can learn from the concrete to abstract. So I definitely think we'll see improvement there. And again, this is not all of the kids. So school safety and security in a positive environment. So we had to start school this year with masks, and we made it through that, and then we were able to get away with taking them away. This year we have an SRO at the middle school, and we have one at the high school, and we're adding a security officer to the high school. And just a little note on this one, we're actually getting a new SRO next year. So Officer Tiffany will be leaving us and I think staying home to be a mom, and we wish her well. We will miss her, and we have a new officer coming on board, and I'm very excited. I'm not going to release who it is yet, though. We also continue with our PBIS. We've been reworking our PBIS and configuration for our new buildings, the new grade bands. We continue with PACS, which has been fantastic. We have 3 SEL coaches, which are also social workers, and 8 mental health therapists when we have them all here. So we still have our partnership, which is on the agenda tonight. Our communication continues through our One Needs assessment. So we're right in the process of collecting the data from the principals for the end of the year. And it used to be Melissa, help me. Thank you, the consolidated plan. So the One Needs assessment, it continues to go from our DLT to our BLT to our teacher-based teams and then back through. So the One Needs assessment prioritized different areas that we've been working on, which includes using the 5 whys, and we've really focused on this during our DLT this year. So what we're doing to address learning, and we know that we knew kids were going to come in this year with a deficit after the pandemic. So we're in recovery and intervention mode. So we're addressing learning loss, absenteeism, mental health supports. We have an after-school program, instructional parapros that are supporting our 4th graders who did not pass the 3rd grade guarantee last year. And we'll get all of the data once we have all of our scores. We continue to have community engagement as much as possible at the beginning of the year, but we've been able to increase that as time's gone on. So we have our Business Advisory Council, and Mr. Henry and Mr. Mundy came to that along with Dr. Myers and Mrs. Jones, and that was a very good evening. We have our Title I Parent Nights, which have been very successful. We've had blended conference options, so our parents have been able to either attend via Zoom or come in person for parent conferences. We have weekly school updates from me as well as the principals, and a mid-year detailed update. And then our community engagement continues with, like I said, the weekly updates from me. We have the 5 things to know from Janine, which are always entertaining and contain bovine information this year. We have our Points of Pride, which is a fantastic, that goes out to our entire mailing district area. We have ongoing building project updates, which we share, and you can log on to our computer webpage at any time and see those. And then I've been able to return to Canterbury Court and visit with our honored citizens. So I am so happy to be able to go back there and see them. And they're actually partnering with our kids right now to have tech support and various other things they want help with. So I love going there. But as I've been telling the staff, we're not going to look back. We're going to look forward. So we have some changes coming. Our new early childhood center and intermediate school will open soon. We're going to grade band buildings. New student information system, which we've shared about the Power School. We have new technology, including fiber internet. I think I'm the most excited about that after the new buildings. And then we have new programs for our 5th through 12th grade. Programs such as Project Lead the Way, which will bring engineering in, as well as some career focus. And just a few pictures of our new locations, which are very exciting. You just saw the Pirate, which is fantastic. Beautiful. The buildings are absolutely beautiful. And just as always, I like to get some quotes from our kids. So what our Pirates have to say: put an effort into academics, but leave time for social. That's from our salutatorian. And our valedictorian: I enjoy every day here. Everyone is personable. Everyone is here to help. And we have some quotes from our littles as well. And then again, the pride is spreading, so some of our kids at the end. So, do you have any questions? I was going to keep it short this year. All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 11.
Bless you.
Dr. Townsend, that's you.
It is. So I have a discussion item. We will not take action on it tonight. It's a proposal for a change to one of our policies. It's policy 5136. It's a policy that we've had since 2003. It was updated in November 15th of 2017. There's a sister policy to this that is 5136.01. So what I wanted to do is, this one is called personal communication devices. I wanted to make sure they aligned. So this policy is aligning with 5136.01, which does restrict the use of personal communication devices on school grounds. They've been very disruptive to the learning environment, and have been a lot of the issues that we've had this school year. They've been the root of the issues. So we already had the policy with 5136.01. This is very similar to the policy we followed prior to COVID. When COVID came in, we let our kids have access to personal communication devices so they could get to their coursework, their Google Classrooms, and now that COVID is not allowed to be said in West Carrollton schools anymore, I would like to align this policy with our other one and have kids focus on their learning, so they'll be able to use our district-issued personal communication devices.
This discussion item, so I'm going to ask a couple questions. And when I first saw this, I was a little bit surprised, and then I read it 2 or 3 times and got a little bit less agitated about it, because I think a lot of parents might not like this policy, but I'm gonna ask just a couple quick questions. So let's just say that next school year, because this would start in August, right? This would start next school year. They're used to their kids texting them in the middle of the day, or maybe on their lunch break or something, and for whatever reason. Sometimes I can certainly tell you that the two or three times I've been texted by Nathan, because obviously he's the only student I have left in the high school, has been because I needed to pay something. So I would I guess I would ask if there's a need a student has, they still can bring their phones because they may need them for class, right?
Correct.
That's first thing. So if there's something they really need to send to their parent or communicate to their parent, I would suspect that'll be allowable as long as the teacher's okay with it.
Well, they have to
Assume
have
that?
written permission. So this, we actually have this policy in 513601 where it specifically says they're not allowed at all. So with this, the changes in the policy that we're doing right now allows the children to use the school phones if they need to make contact. The phones need to be off. This is what we used to ask our kids to do prior to COVID. And the kids would keep the phones in their lockers or keep them off on their person. And then if there is something where a parent wants written permission, they can go ahead and they can do that 5 days prior. So this isn't really doing anything except aligning 5136 with 513601. They just conflicted.
Would you anticipate the third? There's four sentences. There's really not paragraphs, but there's four. One of the comments that is green on the copy we have is related to school activities. So if the kids come to prom or they come to a homecoming dance,
That's fine. It's after school. We're talking about in-school activities during the day.
well, this particular, I understand the no policy is during school hours, but this actually says, unless I'm misreading it, that if they're asked, it does have a caveat that if they're asked by an administrator to put it away. So I guess what I'm just asking is if they're just taking pictures, if they're just using the phone in a proper manner during homecoming or prom, they're not going to be told they can't do that.
Oh, no. This is during school hours.
But
This is
if
for
they're-
the learning environment.
Right, but during a football game or during a school activity, if they're using the phone inappropriately, this will certainly give an administrator or a staff member of the district the option to tell them to put it away.
Correct,
That's kind of how this reads, right?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want, because, I mean, you have to put it, at our football games, our tickets are gonna be digital. So obviously, we know the kids are gonna need phones. They use them to get picked up from sports. They use them to get picked up from tutoring. We understand that, but this is during the school day. That's where we're having the disruption, is during the learning day. And that's really what we want to address. It's no different than prior to COVID. If a kid pulled a phone out, we would ask them to put it away. It needed to be put in their locker or shut off and kept on their person. And the kids would do it and they would comply. But since COVID, the phones have become very disruptive in the learning environment. So,
So here's my last question.
Sure.
Let's say, and I don't know if we have any students who would do this, because when I was in school, I actually did this, but it was rare. I didn't do it very often. But if a student wanted to, they're struggling in a class, and maybe the class is more of a lecture. I don't even know if we have too many classes that are more of a lecture style anymore from teachers, and they wanted to record the lecture. They wanted to record the notes so they could play it back and listen later. This would obviously be a fairly studious person who would probably even want to do this. Would they be allowed to use their phone to do that?
So there is a paragraph in here, which has always been in here, that they could have permission in writing to do that, if that is what they're using it for.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just also want to quickly clarify the second sentence in the green section when kind of explains what prohibited really means, correct? So,
Off, just like when you
yeah.
were in school.
because when I read it the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, they're not allowed to have their phones. I mean,
Off.
that's
They
gonna
have to
be
off.
that's gonna be a meltdown. But I mean, they're allowed to have it on them or whatever.
They
It's
have
just
to
had to be
during
off.
the school day. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's nothing too crazy.
And no different from when you were in school, if
Yeah,
you remember.
Because
we
that's
would-
that's how it was when I
Right.
was in school. So that's why I wasn't too awfully
I mean,
worried
it's
about
actually very good that Mr. Mundy's here because he lived through the era prior to COVID where we would just ask the kids to shut them off and put them away.
it. Yeah.
So-
It's mostly a common sense practice.
It is, but it's been very disruptive since
Lately.
post-COVID.
Yep.
And we're trying to rein it in. Obviously, we'll send out information to the parents. We're not just going to pop it on parents. We'll let them know throughout the summer. And this really is the same policy as 513601. They just conflicted. And the principals and I have had multiple discussions over this, and we're going to have a letter that will go home. We'll have, no different than anything else that we've done. We'll let everybody know ahead of time. But this policy will now align with our other policy. So.
And I guess it's not a bad thing, because, I think the thing that I was worried about is parents, if they want to reach their kids, of course, they're still able to do that, because they still have their devices. So, parents shouldn't worry too awful much, because,
If
they
the
still,
phone's off, they won't, because the
Yeah,
phone
but
won't ring. And they can't
at least
check
they
it
still
until
have it
school's
if they
over.
expect that,
Right.
Right. Well, and it's no different, like I said, when you were in school, where we would just ask you guys to put it away.
Yeah.
Shut it off, put it in your locker.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
no
thank you.
different. Thank you.
What are the consequences?
We do not have all those drawn out yet, so I'm working with the principals on that. But there are consequences such as, the warnings, the progressive, and we know that no different with any other rules that we have to reinforce or put back into place. Kids, it's going to take a few weeks to get the kids, and it's going to be, the kids will be fine with this. It'll be an adult issue. So.
I don't know if the kids are going to be
Well,
fine.
they're not gonna like it, but they didn't like it before, but, they did do it, so, but it is very disruptive, to the learning environment, and kids are walking down the hall texting, and, a lot of our issues stem from the cell phones, so.
Okay,
Any more questions?
good luck.
We're prepared.
Okay.
But are we?
I don't think we are. From a coach's standpoint, this is kind of
Well,
bad for me, so.
Well, but from a coach's standpoint, the kids can use the phones for tennis, pickups.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about, because what I'm talking about is when they're trying to get a hold of me during the course of the day, and we've got a match, and they want to know, and now I'm not going to be able to give that information to them. I'm going to have to go through Evan.
Or the school office or some other.
Yeah.
method.
And so that's gonna be
Be
a problem.
tougher.
But, yeah, okay.
Hey, I just got one more year with Nathan, and then, hey, it's somebody else's problem.
If anybody wants my phone, they're more than welcome to have it.
All right, anything else on this discussion for now?
The next meeting, this will be on again, right? For
No, it won't be. It'll be on in a month.
month.
Unless you guys
End of
don't
June.
care if I lump it in with the rest. So. We know it's gonna, and this could take some tweaking. Obviously, the details will be spelled out with the principals, so.
Yeah. I guess I would
They're they are very disruptive to the learning
would
environment.
consequences be part of the policy, or would that just be something that's more administrative afterwards? 'Cause if-
Well, is some outlined in the policy that's already been in the
Right.
policy.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
true.
change them.
Okay.
So those are already in there. They include, holding the phone and having the parents pick it up and stuff, but that's for the major disruptions. I think Nate could probably speak to this. Really, it was an issue of just asking the kids before, put them away.
Mhm.
They're out in class, or they're using it to text each other to meet and cause issues, and that's what we're really trying to stop. So,
There was a time when we allowed them to use them between classes. And then, once they got to class, then they get turned off and go away. So we're not doing that. We're just saying absolutely and positively off through lunch, through everything.
we can work with the principals if you want to loosen it up a little bit. I'm not the one who has to live the day-to-day, but it's been very disruptive to the school this year. So it might be something that we start out with
If we
very
could,
strict and then loosen up.
if we could at least tweak the lunch period, that would at least give us a window during the middle of the day.
I think that would lessen the pain.
Yes,
for
I do
parents.
too. I do too.
I agree. I think the phones are,
Yeah. to
we
go
all have
from-
kids. We know how distracting
to
those things
nothing.
are.
I know how the children, the phone is glued to them.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be catastrophic.
It's like losing a limb.
Yep.
Well, and the interesting thing is policy 513601 specifically prohibits phones, I mean, throughout the whole day. So, like I said, we have conflicting policies. So if we did allow the kids to have it at lunch, or it's the before school, the between classes that's really causing the issue for us. So if they had it during lunch, and I think that's how we did it when you were in school. Kids had it at lunch.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these things kind of write themselves during time. Like, I mean, when I was in school, people weren't walking around with band hammers. I mean, anyone with their phones, they're just knocking them over the head with it. I mean, most of the time, I mean, if there's an actual
Please
reason.
put it away.
Yeah, if they're like at lunch and they're all just hanging out or whatever, I mean, I don't see a really big thing of people just shutting down their phones and things like that. Usually people are more lenient than that in realistic circumstances. You know, I think I think this is here for when things get bad, you have this to fall back on. I mean, I don't think there's many teachers or administrators out there that's going to be so hardcore. I mean, it's going to restrict these kids from being able to, talk to a coach. I mean, a few minutes to be like, hey, what's going on? I mean, I think, us as people are more lenient. I mean, I just think this is a good thing to back up on. If things get real bad, it's like, okay, we have this. Don't overstep. Give them, some grace. And then if they break that grace, then we have this to be like, okay, now you lost your chance,
And I think that's fair. And I mean, I have to say, in the times with the older kids, especially at the high school, this probably is more of an issue at the middle school. But at the high school level, if there was kids that had their phone out, we're like, put it away.
Sure.
They would put it away. They would be
Yeah.
respectful about
We
it.
do.
But we have issues with phones, and you guys know without me even telling you what they are, that go all the way down in the elementary school, and you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh my goodness. And if that didn't happen at school and they weren't on, it wouldn't have been something we would have had to deal with.
Sure.
So, I mean, there are other reasons. I think the only building I don't have an issue with this is the ECC. So, but I'm not saying it's not possible.
If you don't mind me, we have a past principal. I don't know if you have anything to say about this or your opinion on because you were a part of this too back in the day.
Reliance on phones has definitely increased at the high school.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But you have to balance that with your seeing it with elementary age
Yeah.
children
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I
they
think
do.
we had it as between periods and at lunch. Between periods and at lunch,
Yeah.
we didn't.
You weren't so strict, right?
Well, we said that's fine.
Yeah.
And I know that obviously goes against what is written in the policy.
Yeah.
But we thought if we could give that break back then,
Yeah.
that would alleviate the time in class.
Where
so
they?
you wouldn't have to deal with the discipline issues.
How did you think that went?
It
Well,
was a different time period too.
Yeah.
I feel like
That's
it's
true.
escalated with cell phones.
Yeah.
It has.
Especially after COVID, I'm sure.
Can't say that word.
The resilience
No, look,
or
that's stuff.
reliance
Yeah.
Reliance,
on cell
good, yeah.
phones is multiplied because
Yeah.
of the pandemic.
Mm.
So, I think you need to recognize that nobody lasts longer than an hour or two without looking at their cell phone.
Well, yeah, people fill their pockets all the time just to make sure it's there.
And getting somebody to turn off a cell phone for 8 hours in a day.
Yep. A lot of adults can't do that.
So, but we're not telling them they can't call their parents. They can use school phones and things like that. We don't want them to feel like we're just trying to keep them hostage. But they're here to learn, and they have been extremely disruptive from elementary school all the way up through high school. But I would say less so at the high school, more so at the elementary and middle school this year. And parents, like texting the parents, and some of the issues we've had outside on our campuses with parents this year because of those phones. I mean, it's a safety issue. It comes down to safety, and you guys know some of the other stories too, that we just need to not have that happen at school.
I think if we can put a break period in there where they can activate.
Yes.
I have one.
Maybe lunch period or something of that sort. I think that will give us a little bit
I
of,
think
a
that's
little bit of teeth in
better.
the game with
Yeah.
the parents,
That's
the
fine.
coaches.
Mhm.
And then it might even, I hate to say, add something to Evan's plate, but on days where
Oh, yeah,
that you're not sure what the weather's gonna look like.
right, yeah.
Stop by Evan's office. I don't know if he can put a whiteboard on the wall where they can see through the window or whatever that looks like, but
Yeah.
that may be an information highway we have to adjust a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Well, and we do afternoon announcements, so if something's canceled, we can always let the kids know. So.
Don't listen to those.
What?
I
Well, if
hate
their
to
phone's
burst your
not in their
bubble, but
hands, they're gonna
I
listen,
don't know of
so.
anybody who listens to those.
I know, I'm right there
I
with
can
you.
hear the whistles in my office, so. All right, so I'll add a break in there, and like I said, I'll be working with the principals to, you know.
I'm sure it will shake it itself out.
It'll shake itself out, but if we start more heavy-handed and find that we can loosen up, then it's better to be able to loosen up, so.
I have one more thing. Does that mean we have to go and look at that other policy as well then?
It's the policy, no, the policy is actually just lists personal communication devices, computers, things like that. So it just had a list of items, and this is, as you can tell, it was written prior to COVID.
Yes.
So, you know, it was actually written in 2003,
The other one or this one?
both of them.
Oh, okay.
So,
Because I'm like, God, we don't want to have conflicting policies, of
no,
course.
and so this will align both policies, but I mean, it even says things, I'll tell you how dated it is, it says pagers. And they left that in there because that's what's in the original version, so.
Okay.
Beepers, do you need beepers for your tennis team?
If it comes down to it.
So it's really about the safety of the kids and the focus on the learning, and, we know parents are gonna be upset, we know kids are gonna be upset. We can give them a break during the day at lunch, like, Dr. Meyer said, you know, that worked out well. The kids, when you were here, they were fine and they learned to live with it, but it's gone down to a level at the elementary buildings where it is scary, so. Thank you.
All right. And to item number 12, also you.
What? I know I have a lot today. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education of the West Carrollton School District approve a new negotiated agreement between the West Carrollton Classified Employees Association, WCCEA, and the Board of Education of West Carrollton School District, consistent with the tentative agreement prepared and reviewed by the parties and ratified by the WCCEA on May 6, 2022. Provisions and articles contained in the negotiated agreement continue July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2026.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Sloan, roll call.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes,
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
On to item number 13. Mr. Barry, looks like you got a little bit of a marathon run here.
Tagging in, Devin.
Tag, you're it.
Good evening.
Nikki.
Superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. 13A, approve the ratification of the resignation of the listed individuals. 13B, accept the resignation of the listed individual. 13C, conditionally grant a limited teaching contract to the listed individuals for the 2022-2023 school year, pending approval by the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation and Consensual Drug Screening, as required by Ohio Revised Code 3319.291 and the policies of the West Carrollton City School District. 13D, amend the salary notice of the listed individual for the 2021-2022 school year. 13E, conditionally employ the listed individuals substitute teachers for the 2021-2022 school year, pending approval by the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation and Consensual Drug Screening, as required by Ohio Revised Code 3319.291 and the policies of the West Carrollton City School District. And 13F, non-renew the following substitute teachers, or the listed substitute teachers, at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. And G, amend the pay for the listed, amend the following paid leave of absence for the listed individual. And item G, grant a leave of absence to the listed individuals in accordance with the provisions of the Family Medical Leave Act.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn.
Yes.
Any comments?
Yes, the oddity which I stumbled on was hiring someone in the last week of school to substitute, and then non-renewing them in the next. Obviously, those are actually teachers that just got their degrees. One of them we are hiring as a teacher for next year, but she's really anxious to get started, and at this point in the year, we have a lot of absences. So we needed as many substitutes as possible, and if they're substitute teachers, we non-renew all substitute teachers at the conclusion of the year and then rehire them in the beginning of the school year.
I also had one thing to say. Miss Nolan, she was my Spirit Club advisor, and she means the world to me. So I just wanted to wish her the best on her new journey, and I just wanted to thank her for all that she's done, not just for me, but for the high school and for the Pirates all around. So I just wanted to say that.
I fully agree. I informed her that she was probably my favorite hire out of,
She's
out
awesome.
of my 7 years. But, so yes, we wish her well.
Thank you.
Right, item number 14.
Item 14, the superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. Item 14A, grant supplemental pupil activity contracts to the listed individuals for the 2021-2022 school year. Item 14B, rescind a supplemental pupil activity contract to the listed individual for the 2022-2023 school year. Item 14C, grant a supplemental pupil activity contract to the listed individual for the 2022-2023 school year. Item 14D, non-renew the athletic supplemental contracts to the licensed and certificated employees listed in Appendix A at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. Item 14E, non-renew the athletic pupil activity contracts to the non-licensed, non-certificated employees listed in Appendix B at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. 14F, non-renew the non-athletic supplemental contracts to the licensed, certificated employees listed in Appendix C at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. And 14G, non-renew the non-athletic pupil activity contracts to the non-licensed, non-certificated employees listed in Appendix D at the end of the 2021-2022 school year.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Abstain.
Any comments?
No, just normal business. We, at the end of each school year, though it is assumed that many coaches automatically get their job back, we actually non-renew them at the end of each year and then rehire them at the beginning of the next school year.
Item number 15, Mr. Berry.
Superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. 15A, accept the resignation of the listed individual.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
15, the superintendent recommends that the board revise the job description, number 112, principal elementary / intermediate school, revise the job description to number 113, principal assistant, and approve job description number 118, preschool administrator, as presented.
I need a motion and a second, please.
I motion.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox.
Yes. All right, that's it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dr. Townsend, item number 17.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend that the board approve the administrative salary schedules for 22-23 through 24-25 as presented, and place the following administrative personnel in the following positions and at the following steps effective August 1st, 2022.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Item number 18. Dr. Townsend?
I'd like to recommend that the board approve the central office support staff salary schedules for 22-23 through 24-25 as presented, and place the following personnel in the following positions and at the following levels / steps effective July 1st, 2022.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Item number 19. Dr. Townsend?
Thank you. I'd like to recommend that the West Carrollton Board of Education grant an administrative contract to the following administrator for the period of time indicated.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please. Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Item,
I can do the next one.
item number 20.
I got it, Devin. I got it. Yeah, it's fine. I'll give you a break. I'd like to recommend that the board approve the following personnel items. Item 20A, approve the additional 5 days for our preschool administrator at the end of the 22-23 school year.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
So I have to ask what we just did there.
Our preschool administrator, this is exciting for our new ECC building. She's our school psych there now, and the extra 5 days is for her school psych position, which is an administrative position, but she will be the preschool administrator. So we're very happy to have her, and she's off to a good start already because she's been working on next year.
Great. Thank you. Item 21 is also for you.
Thank you. I didn't assign these very well tonight. I'd like to recommend that the board enter into the contract between West Carrollton City School District and Samaritan Behavioral Health Incorporated for mental health services as presented, effective August 1st, 2022.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox.
Yes. Item number 22, Mr. Sloan.
Thank you. I ask that the board approve the agreement as presented with Meta Solutions regarding final forms for fiscal year 2023.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
comments?
I'm not real familiar with final forms. I was just given the bill.
Well, let me fill you in.
No, I'll
What
fill
do you
you
wanna
in. We'll take it from the school side, not the coach's side. We do online registration with our families now, and even with our new student information system, our parents will still be able to use final forms. It's a nice feature. They have to complete all their enrollment paperwork, and then they bring their documents in to Central, and we confirm, and then we're able to keep everything digitally. So, and we use it for sports.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thank you.
that too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, item number 23, Mr. Sloan.
I ask that the board approve the following financial items. Item A, purchase orders requiring then and now certification. Item B, appropriation modifications. And item C, April 2022 financial reports.
Need a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second?
And roll call?
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn.
Yes.
These are the reports for the 10 months, July 1 through April 30. The main thing I highlighted was on the bottom of the cover page, just where we finally got the final part of our tax settlement in April, and as I indicated on the cover page, the tax collection in the first half of the year came in higher than estimate, so that was a good thing. At our county school treasurer meeting about a month ago, the Montgomery County treasurer came and spoke with us and said that I think he just started office, his last name is Manis. I think he just started office back in October or November, and he said he and his office made a concentrated effort to increase the collection of taxes across the county that were delinquent, and he said that is the main reason why why our tax collection this first half of 2022 was a little higher than in previous years. So that was good information to get from him and to see in the form of our first half tax collections.
All right, and then item 24.
I ask that the board approve the 5-year financial forecast as presented.
Need a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
So on the screen is just one page here regarding the financial forecast. This is for our general fund only. It's an update to the 5-year forecast that was done last November. The forecast is for the 21-22 school year out through the 25-26 school year. And the top half represents the estimated ending cash balances for the general fund for June 22 through June of 26. And then the bottom half of the graph puts those cash balances in terms of how many months of expenses will be covered for the next year by that June 30 cash balance. As you can see, we're in good shape for this year ending June of 22, and then in good shape in June of 23, and then just the forecast just shows that the cash balances are estimated to start decreasing in the 23-24 school year, and a big part of that is something that all districts across the state and nation will be facing in terms of the federal stimulus, the ESSER money. That money will start expiring in the 23-24 and the 24-25 school year. So there are expenses that are currently not being paid out of the general fund that have to get added back into the general fund in those years. But even with those expenses getting added back to our budget, in fiscal '24 and fiscal '25. I mean, the forecast still has us, for example, with almost 3 months of expenses in June of '25. So, so relatively speaking, I mean, we're in good shape, and I kind of look at the forecast in terms of it kind of tells you it tells you what not to let happen, and we wouldn't actually want our cash balance to go from 17 million to 6 million over a 2-year period, but so it just gets us thinking that a couple years down the road, we'll we're in good shape for a couple years, but as we do each and every year, we just need to just look forward and try to keep the budget balanced as it is this year and next year.
Guess we go on to comments and reports. Committee reports. Anybody?
I'll report for the Miami Valley Career Technical Center. As a quick refresher, that's a 2-year school, equivalent to junior and senior high classes in public schools. Last Friday evening was the event for those graduating in 2022. And that segment of our student population was very successful. Our communications comments earlier this evening talked about one of the West Carrollton students being one of 9 valedictorians at the Career Technical Center. And she's going on to the University of Findlay. She earned a $21,000 scholarship to enhance her knowledge of the pharmacy area. That was the largest single student from West Carrollton as far as the CTC in receiving scholarship money there. There were for West Carrollton students at the CTC, which represents 27 districts over 5 counties, Montgomery County being the largest in population and general population, but also in students at the CTC. The dollars are kind of impressive. There's a scholarship that's earned on a grade point average. It's the National Technical Honor Society, and students are entered into that society based on their GPA at the CTC, not what they carry over from their freshman and sophomore year at their home school, West Carrollton. So we had 9 of the total of 167 scholars, if you will, from those 27 districts. They were recognized in the end of the month of March, but they were recognized again Friday evening for their outstanding efforts. Scholarship-wise, money awarded to 22 students from the home district, West Carrollton, were awarded $109,500 towards furthering their education. Some will go to 4-year schools, some will go to 2-year schools, such as Sinclair. And when it gets down to it, a student is a student, regardless of what school building they're attending their classes. I was up there yesterday, and I never heard Tom Wolf talk about this. That's a long drive from West Carrollton to Clayton and back for a 1-hour meeting. It gets, crazy. Can't wait till it snows. But, because I joined in January, you see what I mean? But anyhow, the principal of the segment, they have several principals at the CTC. And the one that dealt with students, as Tom Wolf would call them, that didn't quite fit in the classroom, and they didn't quite fit in the technical sense maybe of a certain occupation, trade to learn. The principal for 22 years, from the beginning of this program through Friday tomorrow, has done a terrific job of bringing students forward, learning how to learn, what to do with their knowledge. And that impressed me. Tom Wolf was sitting there at the luncheon, the retirement luncheon yesterday with me, and the president of our CTC Board of Education kind of whispered over while we were eating and asked Tom Wolf if he could make some comments about those 22 years of that one principal directing that one group of students. And Tom said, sure, I can do that. Ad-libbing, he got a 5-minute limit. Does that sound familiar to anyone? 5-minute limit. And he just rattled off facts right and left. And Jay, who he was talking about, he wore a smile. He enjoyed every minute of it. And the fact that somebody had observed those proceedings for so many years and was able to rattle them off so quickly for the rest of us to share in that moment. Teachers, administrators, sometimes we think as just book people, but they have to be people too. I don't know on any given day, which way the balance goes on the scale, but because it is a variable. Jay and his wife have a business that they run, and I did not know this, maybe you know, that Ron's Pizza in Miamisburg makes the pizza dough for a number of companies around the Dayton area. They make it in their bakery, and they deliver it to the retail pizza seller, if you will, Casanos, all those people. Well, Jay and his wife make donuts, and they deliver them to retailers in the morning, and they might touch them up with icing or, whatever, and sell them. So he's an all-day person, probably half the evening too, getting donuts ready for the marketplace. Anyhow, in summary, I do sound like Tom Wolf, don't I? Last school year, the 2021 class of graduates was awarded $4.2 million in scholarship money. The Miami Valley CTC class of 2022, those graduates were awarded Friday night $4.7 million in scholarships. So things are looking good, and that's great. Not only are the programs that they offer expanding, but they're being recognized for their good work in their grades and earning scholarship to continue their education. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay. Comments from our superintendent?
Thank you. Just want to let everybody know our honors assembly is Friday here at the high school. And graduation is next Thursday at UD. Based on some of the comments I heard about the Career Tech Center's graduation, you might want to come a little earlier for parking. And I would just like to congratulate the class of 2022. They've definitely come a long way through a difficult time, and I'm very proud of them. That's all.
Mr. Sloan, any comments?
Just wanted to say, what's the right word, other than thank you to Mr. Haig, just for the building project. I mean, only he can describe, what he's had to deal with, but like this past weekend, I know he was in central office, giving us all items for our move, which, is going to happen in a week and a half, and just all the logistical stuff that he has to deal with the phones and the internet, and even after we move here in the next week or two, I mean, there's still the issue of demolishing the buildings and getting the parking lots in time, and I think it's just he's our business manager, but he's also a construction manager, and he and Shook, they've just done a great job keeping this project, in under budget, on budget and on time. And, there was an article in the paper a week ago about Huber Heights and Fairborn and Franklin and all the problems they're running into. And it's just, I think we're just incredibly fortunate how well things have gone for our project. And, that just kind of goes to how well Jack has worked with Shook and Garmin. And I know he's ready for the project to be over and maybe relax a bit, but just wanted to say kudos and thank you to him.
Thank you. We have no comments from the West Carrollton Education Association, nothing from the classified. Central Office, Mr. Barry. Mr. Haig.
Yeah, same thing, is congratulations, the seniors graduating last night, they had their senior final night here at the school, very good group of kids, very well behaved, very respectful, so we were pretty proud of that, the way it turned out yesterday, and hate to see a class like that go away, so that, we're just wishing well as we move forward in the future.
Thank you. Ms. Tice? I was going to comment on that. He's got like a small window. I mean, it's not very big of a window. From demolition parking lots to from demolitions to parking lot to clean up to the next two projects. So, okay. Curriculum, anything? Thank you. We have no comments from the public, so board members. Mr. Mundy.
Well, hello. I don't have too much. I know one of my things is to Miss Osborne, our SRO. I just want to wish her the best. She's been great, so wish her all the best. And then the second thing is, of course, everyone's talking about graduation. And I just thought it's a neat perspective, because, I was a senior when they were freshmen. So, some of these people are still my friends, so it's kind of a neat aspect to see them grow And, you know, it's different when you're on the other side of things, and you can kind of see how they're growing and see how they're doing, and, you know, look from a different perspective. And, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into speech mode, but I do want to give them some tips from someone that has made it out and that's doing all right, I would think. I mean, my big thing is I think a lot of times when you leave, you look for your meaning. And I mean, I want to remind them. I don't think any of these kids are even going to watch this anyways. If you do, you're crazy. If you do, but if you do, you know, find your meaning not within yourself, but within others. I mean, your meaning is not just of what you do; it's the people around you as well. I mean, the things that you do impact everybody else as well. So always remember that your meaning is more than just you. And then I also wanted to say, you know, be fearless. I think a lot of times we leave, and then we get into a job, or we get into college, and we just let days roll on. And then you look back, and you're like, wow, time has gone so far. You know, even someone like me, I look back 3 years ago, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's been 3 years. It's crazy, you know. So, I mean, be fearless every day. Always look for something to do better, or, you know, to fight for, because, I mean, that's why we're here in the first place, I believe, is to try to make a difference in the world, to be a part of what's going on, you know. And I have a little bit of a personal quote that I wrote a long time ago in my senior year, and it's kind of a funny one, I guess. There is never a bad day. There are just lessons. If it's not a lesson, it's a blessing. So just be sure. I mean, when things get rough, take it in as it's happening for a reason. I mean, turn it into a good thing. And if you're having a good day, that's a blessing. And be sure to take it in stride and always look for those blessings. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Congratulations, class of 2022.
Thanks, Nate. Mr. Henry.
Mrs. Corbett, did you have a report about the bovines this evening? Did you skip that?
No, that is usually my 5 things to know that I send.
I thought maybe you'd want to share about the automation of that. Sure. That was an opportunity. Door was open. Okay. Mike, did you want to say anything about the upcoming car show for the band?
I guess I could, but I don't know much about it. I don't really pay attention that much. My wife's helping out.
It's Saturday, June 4th. Okay, here.
I want to say it's like from 9 to 2, but there's going to be a lot of work starting around 6 a.m.
He knows about the work. There's about I think I read 461 cars are registered.
I've heard numbers of 400 plus.
We got a
cars
big parking
registered,
lot.
but registered and showing up aren't the same thing. But if 400 plus cars show up,
Be great.
I'll be interested to know how they're going to all fit in that parking lot.
Tight.
Snow overflow.
That's where they're registering them from. That's the staging area to register.
My son told me that Steak and Shake is one of the sponsors, and they're bringing 7,000 milkshakes to give out. 6,000.
That's the number we've been told.
So they're anticipating. Yeah, I'm assuming little, mini, maybe, probably. I guess.
I believe coordination's been done with the high school to borrow the freezer there. Pretty impressive.
Thank you. Well, as always, I want to remind all of us to drive safely around our school buildings as the days are counting down that the students are going to be out of our buildings and maybe more active in their neighborhoods on bicycles or walking or running. Watch for them. They don't have a chance against motor vehicles at all. And I would like to thank the class of 2022 for their work last night, showing that they have what it takes to move forward. successfully. And I want to again thank them for studying hard, learning, getting good grades, graduating, and moving forward, whatever the future brings for them, be it work or more school, perhaps a military assignment, or a combination of all of those. So congratulations to the class of 2022.
I would also like to congratulate the class of 2022, all the seniors. It will be great to see them all again next Thursday night down at UD. As everything comes to a close, I know I wanted to let everyone know the tennis team did very well at sectionals. We were one spot away from going on to districts. The boys came together and they beat Franklin, they beat Kettering Fairmont. They were in a close 3-setter with Wilmington. So I was really happy and very pleased with their performance. We're going to do a little bit more this next year because we've got 3 of them that are seniors. So I'm going to try really, really hard to get them over that hump. We ran smack dab into Springboro, and they're really good. I give kudos to those kids. They were really great with our kids, and got a lot of compliments. But they had 5 seniors that went on to districts, so I congratulate them too. Have a safe summer. The kids will be getting out very soon. Don't forget the library that's down there. They have a lot of summer things going on. And reading, you can also get a nice book and find a nice, cool spot under a tree and continue those reading things that you've learned throughout the year. So with that, thank you. Oh, and one more thing. Tennis, the girls' season is looking for a few girls to fill in spots. So if you would like to join the tennis team, there's more information in the main office. Thank you.
Mr. Llewellyn.
Thank you. I want to certainly congratulate the class of 22 as well, and remind folks that UD is wide open. So if you want to be there, you don't have any excuse not to be, because there are no tickets needed, right? The other thing I would ask, I have one comment to make, but this is something Tom usually asks, if I recall, and that's, do we have at least a general idea of the number of graduates? Are we around 200, under, over a little bit? I know there's probably a little bit of iffiness here at the end, maybe with a couple of kids, but you speak to that?
The hiccups at the end of the year, I do not have numbers, but I know I'm checking on specific kids as we speak. So no, I do not have a number, but it's probably close to 200.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to share was, of course, the musical's over, and one of the things that happens in about, I want to say 17, I believe it's 17 on their website, but around 17 high schools participate in the Miami Valley High School Theater Awards Association. I can't believe I said that without stuttering. So I'll stop before I mess up. Anyway, they judge these musicals, and at the end of the school year, in June 7th specifically, their association hosts a showcase, and 2 of our students will participate in this. One of them is Nathan, that played Charlie Brown. The other is Kirsten, who played Sally, for anybody that saw this. Those 2 students will actually be performing on Schuster's stage with 2 students from the other 17 schools. So about 35 kids make up like an ensemble who will perform the opening and closing numbers from that showcase. And then in the middle of it is when they announce awards, who did well at this and that, and what show got honored. And so that'll be June 7th, and 2 of our students will be performing on Schuster's stage. So that's all I got.
All right, I just got a couple things tonight. With the pandemic being over, I would like to see the, we'll go with that.
Thank you.
I'd like to see the award ceremonies come back for the athletics. We haven't done them, and I understand why. Our golf kids from the fall just had their little gathering here last week, which was kind of odd because half the group couldn't make it because baseball and the other sports had already started. So to see those kids get together, especially for their senior year one last time, was kind of sad to see only half of them show up for that stuff. And I know, again, it's because of what we were going through, so hopefully next year that will come back. Congrats to all the seniors. Unlike Miss Jones, I am not sad my son is graduating. He needs to get out. My oldest son graduated with Mr. Mundy 3 years ago, and I was a little sad and a little disheartened that he was going to be moving on and doing his thing. He is graduating a year early, so he is graduating in December with 2 majors and a minor. It would be business, design, and then his minor is English. So that's kind of crazy that, CCP classes through our school, our district, really pushed him forward and really helped him out. So all those kids that are coming back next year, juniors to seniors, capitalize on those free classes. It saved us a ton of money. But in saying that, congratulations to the class of 2022. You made it. Thanks for being clean and respectful last night. There was a group of kids of about 100 that showed up. They tailgated, camped, did their little thing out in the parking lot. They cleaned up. Looks like they did a pretty good job. I did not get a phone call in the middle of the night, which was even better. And it's a good group of kids. I knew quite a bit of the class of 2019, but 2022 I know a ton of kids. So congratulations to all of them, and good luck in your ventures. There will be no executive this evening. I will entertain a motion and a second to conclude our meeting for tonight.
So moved. Second.
Divided up, however.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mundy?
Yes.
And that concludes our meeting.